Hello? I think everything's on. Hope everyone's having a good Friday morning. I've personally been feeling pretty rushed in my life, and there's no sign of slowing down. I think mostly because things are opening up again, and it's like, I want to do stuff. Even the stuff that I'm doing right now with my set is like is a reaction to going out and being like, oh wow, I still want to do that, and I still want to like try doing a live set. I DJ'd last week, and last Friday I was talking about that, and I'm still kind of on that. So I sort of set up a whole different set that was based around. Oh, I should change the title of this video, shouldn't I? Yeah, the whole idea was to build a set. Let's call this OneShot Trigs fills improvising dance music. No, that sounds lame. OneShot Trigs, fills, and more. Today's stream could prove very boring, but it could also be very interesting because I've figured out a lot of things on the one hand. I was just talking to somebody, I can't remember their name. Let me look at it. Side Eye. And they commented on my last video about fills. And we're saying like, oh, you can use fills, you can use OneShot Trigs to do the same thing that you're doing fills right now. And I was like, oh yeah, that's cool, but unfortunately, fills will what was it? It was like OneShot Trigs will have to be like the way that I thought OneShot Trigs worked was you launch them and then the next pattern you have to launch. It's like sort of reset per pattern. But then I found out looking at the manual is that the OneShot Trigs actually stay triggered and inactive when you move from one pattern to the next. So say you're on pattern 1, you trigger your OneShot Trig on 1, and then you go to the next pattern, that trigger is still deactivated. So it actually carries over from one pattern to the next. And I was like, holy shit, that changes everything. Because if I set, for example, like 3 different OneShot Trigs in a single pattern, I can launch them individually, move to the next section, and then reactivate them track by track. If you select a track, hit yes, it'll reset that particular OneShot Trig. So like, let's say, like right now I'm playing a OneShot Trig on my track 5. And that's why you're sort of hearing it loop, because I have it set to loop on. And this is something that Side-Eye was also talking about. Welcome, real alien space bats. So check this out. If I press yes while I'm on track 5, this one becomes yellow again, and then it re-triggers on the next go around. So in that case, there's something really interesting and groundbreaking about that. The downside is I'm realizing that as I've been playing with this for the last few days, that I have to redo a lot of file format stuff that I kind of just barreled through. And this is kind of the thing about the Octatrack, it just takes a ton of time to set up the perfect way. So, well, to keep things interesting, let's start by just showing you some of the patterns that I've made, because I made 16 patterns, which are designed with kick on 6, longer loops on 5, rhythms on 4, some kind of melodic content on 3, and again, this is taken from just stuff that I recorded for the last year of streams. Welcome, Moshe Arst. Track 2 at the moment is my Basslines, and track 1 is my another record buffer. So one of the things that I have been sort of experimenting with was this idea that I could use fills in tracks 1 and in track 2. The problem was fills all get activated at the same time. So using them as a place to hide one-shot loops, essentially you p-lock a sample and set it to fill so that when you turn on fill, then it triggers. It was just a really roundabout way of doing a one-shot trig. And especially if one-shot trigs can be triggered per track, it's like, why go through all of that effort? So at the moment, I'm sort of redesigning what I'm doing and sort of realizing, for example, that the loops that I have in track 3, I do very little design after I've set them up. I don't have to put a bunch of trigs in there because they work as loops by themselves. I also just don't want to fill up my RAM with 4-bar loops though, so I'm kind of just on the fence about setting it up that way. Anyway, let's see. So the things that I'm trying to do today, there's a few. Is figuring out how to make transitions smoothly from one pattern to the next. Deciding where exactly I want to put some of these loops. And I'm gonna have to just kind of go through this one by one because there's a lot. I should honestly make a checklist. Figuring out which one-shot trigs I want to have, and this is why I have Ableton up on my desktop, because I want to set up vocal tracks and create arrangements, and I might honestly have to just do this by myself, but creating arrangements that I then want to import in full form into my track 5. I'll give you an example. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, so this track has a one-shot trig on it. Welcome, M. Inez, I'm gonna guess is how you pronounce it. So this track has a one-shot trig on it, and it's from this producer, Susie Analog, who my friend has been releasing some music on her label, so I've been kind of like, I picked up these vocals on her Bandcamp, so I'll probably drop that in the link in the description later. So imagine I'm like in the middle of a set, and I want to bring in her vocal. I would just hit yes to activate. Well, not in the audio editor, but I would just hit yes to activate the one-shot trig. Then I have this rhythm in track 4. And I'll explain some of what I've been doing with track 4 because it's pretty fun. So track 4 is a breakbeat. And at the moment, my scene crossfader is adjusting the retrig amount from 1 to 4. This lets me retrigger this first beat up to 4 times, but I can also put it at this spot. So you only retrigger once. And the retrigger length is exactly, or it's very close to 6 steps. It doesn't have to be exact. And in fact, there isn't really much need to do more than 3 because it never reaches past 3 because I have 2 triggers that are playing every time. Sorry, let me just pause and explain this because I'm getting a bit distracted. So essentially what happens is that this beat is on slice 1. This beat is on slice 9. I think it's actually on slice 9 by default. And these 3 triggers are actually only activating when I set up fill. And I'll explain why later. But basically, I have a retrigger that goes from 1 to 4 here. And I can sort of place it. I should actually set it to 3, honestly, because it doesn't go any longer than 3. Because by the time I play 3, I'm already at the end. Because, 6 times 3 is 18, and you only have 16 steps. So if I were to put it in the middle, oh, interesting. Huh. So going from 1 to 3, this is just re-triggering twice. And then this is not triggering at all. You can kind of see this happen in real time on this. Or can you? Yeah. So you see how it's sort of like first bar, it's playing from slice 1, second bar, it's playing from slice 9. So I pretty much sliced up all of my samples so that they do this, at least for rhythm. And this kind of lets me just play with the rhythm a little bit, but the additional back end of that is that I actually have 3 hidden fill conditional trigs here. So what this means is that they only trigger when I turn fill on, and what they do is they activate the LFO, which then allows me to move the slices around with my crossfader because my crossfader is also adjusting the speed of the LFO. So if I were to play this and hold down the fill section, now suddenly these 3 triggers are doing essentially like what a beat fill would do. They're just sort of selecting random slices. But notice that they're not affecting this trigger or the 2 triggers that are normally playing when fill is not activated. This is because the default setting is for there to be no depth on this. But the fills create the depth. That's about as clearly as I think I can explain it. So if it's confusing, just like listen to that a few times. So again, you can re-trigger using this. And then once I turn on fill, now this is moving around more erratically. And what's cool too is that they actually play the same spot if I keep it in one space. And this creates some like performance. Let's see if my sample is still playing. I don't think it is. Is it up? So this is all just with the rhythm, right? I've been trying to figure out ways that I can mute the kick individually, which it just takes a lot of hand movements. So like, messy. Just too many things to have to do at the same time, but I'd rather it be a little bit complicated. Trying to up the volume on this thing. Trying to make sure that this is playing. It's so quiet. I don't know why. I should just turn it up, yeah. There we go. Oh, it recorded my beat somehow. Or is that somewhere else? Whoa. Huh. Weird. That must have gotten saved in somehow. Anyway. So, just to recap, I have a few things going on right now at the same time. Kick, rhythm, let me just point at it this way. Kick, nothing here right now, rhythm, this is the melody, or the chords. This is a bass line. And then I have a 4-track looping on here. I should probably share it this way, yeah. And I could potentially slice up this one-shot trig, one-shot sample in a way that makes it feel more like I'm looping things. issue is now I know that the bass line's going to change if I change patterns. Yeah, so this is what I mean by needing to practice these transitions, because it's easy to get lost. Let's just save this as the loudest it can be. Joe, welcome. And I guess I'll just sort of outline what I have here. I basically have 16 patterns that have things that I like, and I'm just trying to figure out how to trigger them so that they transition smoothly from one to the next. So each of them is sort of like a 4-bar loop with something in track 5, which I haven't completely personalized from one track to the next. This is kind of interesting too, because when I trigger stuff on track, on one pattern, and this longer loop, which is this flute thing, it doesn't feel so bad to switch from one thing to the next. The biggest issue is when I have 2 different bass lines. So that's sort of like the situation with this pattern. I've got this bass line, I've got this melody. The main thing that I noticed about this arrangement is that I can't really change. There are certain things about the bass line that I would want to adjust, and I can't because I'm triggering the bass line in different ways with each pattern. Like this one. This is like 3 trigs. And I don't necessarily want to set it up that way. There's a part of me that's thinking I need to just rearrange this so that the bass lines are here, and it's kind of hard to explain. Basically, these should be OneShot Trigs. But they should also be able to sample. And I can sort of demonstrate that. I mean, all of that is something that I think would just take a ton of time, because essentially what I'm trying to do is I want both tracks 1 and 2 to be flex machines. This is so that if I want to save something over it, like for example this thing, which... So let's record this. You can see that it's recording there. And now that it's playing, so this basically has a sample of that, right? The issue is that in order for me to play it while I'm DJing, I have to be able to, this has to be clear. And if I'm using these intricate bass lines, then they're going to sort of resample, or they're going to play over what I have playing. And so it's better suited to have these long loops that are triggered once. But in order for me to trigger record buffers, they have to be flex machines. And all of my files are in my static machine section, which is the dilemma. Oh, it's so annoying. File management. I mean, you really have to, I feel like you really have to have a lot of extra time to get this right. And this is probably why, you know, some people just don't bother. These are my bass lines. And the reason I put the bass lines in the flex machine was because I figured, oh, they're like shorter. They're smaller file sizes, and the flex machine relies on RAM. So you don't want to fill your project with too many long files. And a lot of these are just way bigger because they're almost all 4-bar loops. But because they're more regular, they're also the exact things that I would want in the flex machines. Anyway, just kind of thinking to myself about how I'm going to swap tracks 2 and 3 without, because it's not just moving their positions, it's like completely changing how they work. Because I can at least demonstrate a little bit what I mean, I think. Yeah, because before I go any further with building bass lines out, I should be putting them in the right place. And basically any track that doesn't have a bass line yet, I should just take out. Yeah, so this one is in place. This one's also in place. This one doesn't have a bass line. This also doesn't have one. Although that's kind of nice. You might recognize some of these if you've been listening. And we're going to actually take out 16 because I didn't save anything there. That was just kind of a dead pattern so that I can swap things around. I really like these patterns. I'm pretty sure I created them by triggering MIDI on my iPad, which was running a Moog synth. The other thing that I could just do for a little bit is I got this pocket operator today, or yesterday. I decided to just go for it because I've been seeing this thing all over the place for years now, and was just like, fuck it, I should just get one. It looks fun, and it's already been fun. I just started playing with it yesterday, and it's pretty awesome. As long as you get the tempo right. I've also got a NTS1 in my desk tray. Oh, and I also got this desk. The platform output desk. I can see this being really helpful for like techno stuff. And then you can record it. So now I have, and then what's really cool too is I can actually fade it out.